Okay, so a lot of you guys really enjoyed my video on the best designed characters in platform fighting games. So it makes sense to finally talk about the worst designed characters in platform fighters. And since my arm is broken, making it impossible for me to play any video games, this is probably the best time for me to make this video. And just like the last video, so it's not super repetitive, we won't talk about every single Smash Bros. Game back to back to back. We'll split them up and spice it up. And these designs are going to be based on a few things: how fun the character is to play and is to play against, if they effectively captured the essence of the game they're from, if they're from a game, and on their originality, and a bit of cool factor, or lack thereof. Obviously, all of this is my opinion, so when you're done watching this video, leave your opinions in the comments down below on what you think are the worst designed characters in platform fighters. But without further ado, let's begin with the granddaddy of them all. So Smash 64's roster is really small, and honestly, for the time, Masahiro Sakurai did a pretty decent job with all 12 of the characters in this roster. So it was actually really difficult for me to choose the worst. So for this segment, I'm not even gonna have any honorable mentions because I do think the majority of this cast is very stacked for the time. Like, sure, some of these characters have not aged really well in terms of their gameplay being kind of mid. Looking at you, Donkey Kong. But for the first platform fighting game in history, it's very impressive what Sakurai was able to pull off. But I do have to pick the worst one. And the worst one, unfortunately, is Luigi. No. And that's mostly because he's just a carbon copy of Mario, but like a little taller and a little more floaty. So ultimately, his design does feel a little bit like a cop-out, like a little lazy. In this game, Sakurai was able to cut corners and reuse assets of Kirby to make Jigglypuff, but Jigglypuff plays completely different to Kirby. Meanwhile, Luigi, besides his up special and his floaty mechanics, doesn't really have that much going for him that's that unique. Which is a shame because I do feel like Luigi ends up becoming this really goofy, silly character in later iterations of Smash Bros. But this initial version of Luigi is definitely the weakest. I'm sorry, Luigi fans. R.I.P. Multiverses. I really did enjoy some of the characters that came out in this game, but there were some stinkers. Our first honorable mention is Velma. I do respect them for trying to put a character like Velma in this game because Velma really isn't a fighter. So they made like her talking bubbles attack and whatnot, but the really frustrating and stupid mechanic they added was like the cop car thing. Like when she was really meta dominant, that cop car thing was probably the most annoying thing in the entire game. My next honorable mention is Arya Stark. I just don't feel like she represents her character in Game of Thrones well at all. I mean, Game of Thrones did kind of start falling off towards the end anyway, and her character was just like all over the place, but she ended up just feeling like a generic sword fighter. It really could have been anybody. You could have made that entire character just be Zoro and it would have worked. But I do think the worst designed character is actually a character that I really liked, which is the Iron Giant. The Iron Giant was just an ambitious choice to make a character that big. Like Smash Bros was afraid to add Ridley, they were like, we're gonna make a bigger character than Ridley. And it just always had a lot of problems. He literally swung from being either the most broken character in the game or the worst character, like a pendulum, because he was just so hard to balance around. It makes sense. It's impossible to balance around a character who's 3 times the size of every character in the game. There's just so many dumb, broken mechanics that existed because of the Iron Giant's extreme size that just could never really be fixed because they're not going to adjust his size. And on top of that, from a lore perspective, the Iron Giant is supposed to be a pacifist character, an anti-war character. Making a character like him fight, it almost feels like blasphemous, you know? Hashtag not my Iron Giant. Melee's entire success feels like a miracle because this game came out really fast. With very minimal time, they were able to crunch out a game that is still iconic to this day. But unfortunately, some of the characters in this game are pretty mid. The first honorable mention for Melee has got to be Bowser. It feels like Masahiro Sakurai didn't understand that Bowser is more than just like a beast of an animal. In this game, he doesn't feel like Bowser at all. Like he did not capture the essence of Bowser. Bowser is a villain, but he's a little bit goofier, you know? So he just ends up being like this tanky turtle guy with flaming fire breath, and he just doesn't have any of his charm and personality that Bowser has had for a long time now. But Giga Bowser is kind of cool, so I'll give him that. The next honorable mention is the other clone characters in this game: Dr. Mario, Young Link, Pichu, Roy. Like, I don't want every single worst character to just be clone characters, so from here on out, they won't be. I just do want to highlight that because these characters were clones, it did hinder some of the uniqueness of their gameplay in future iterations, and I think that's really disappointing. And no other character in this series got shafted harder because of this clone mechanic than my pick for the worst designed character in Melee, which is Ganondorf. Ganondorf ended up becoming a clone of Captain Falcon, a slower, much stronger clone of Captain Falcon. And this unfortunately means that Ganondorf doesn't feel or play like Ganondorf, which would be fine if this was just like the first iteration of Ganondorf, and in future games, when Sakurai had more time, he would update Ganondorf and make him more video game accurate. But he's stuck like this design to this day. Like now he has a sword, but it's still just a Captain Falcon clone. And it's honestly one of the most disappointing game design decisions of all time, because we could have a Ganondorf who plays like the Project M Ganondorf, a true warlock as he's supposed to be. But unfortunately, we're just stuck with the bad Captain Falcon clone, who's never been good and is like always been an F tier for every single game from here on out. If you paid attention in my previous video about the best design characters, I mentioned how much I hated the design and butchering of Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So yeah, it's Aang. I just think they did not understand anything about what made Aang work. All of his animations felt extremely clunky. It's like whoever made Aang in Nazby 1 never watched the show, which is a crime. It's like required curriculum at this point to being a good human being. Watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. Thankfully, Aang is a lot better in the second game. But when it comes to the first game, we all knew it was gonna be Aang. They really dropped the ball on this guy. Just like look at him do a few moves. It makes me want to puke. Now, surprisingly, Nazby 2 did a significantly better job at designing a majority of the roster. I was genuinely impressed when it came to every single character's designs. From goofy characters like Gerald from Hey Arnold to iconic characters like Patrick and SpongeBob, these characters really did feel really fun and unique. But I do got a few duds. My first honorable mention is Grandma Gertie. Look, I'm a fan of some joke characters, but this joke of making a character who isn't supposed to be like Super Saiyan powered, like with Shaggy and Multiverses, it's just so overplayed at this point. So seeing Grandma Gertie be the next Super Saiyan character, I just was so over it. And I know that in the show, she is canonically like a karate master, but just because you're a karate master doesn't mean you belong in this roster, and it doesn't mean you have Super Saiyan powers. Ultra Instinct Shaggy is significantly cooler than Ultra Instinct Grandma Gertie. Come at me. But I really do think the worst designed character is also another character from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it's Iroh. In Avatar: The Last Airbender, Iroh, when he fights, like he doesn't fight that often, but when he does, all aura. Just like, damn, right? In this game, no sauce, no aura. All of his moves feel flat. They feel slow. They make him seem like kind of a weak dude when he's not. He's like objectively one of the strongest characters in the entire universe of Avatar. And honestly, why did they even add him as DLC later? You already had multiple firebenders with Azula and Zuko, and both Aang and Korra could also bend fire. Why not just bring back Toph? Or even add like Sokka as a sword fighter? But no, they had to add Iroh, and they didn't even do him right. Leaves from the vine, falling so slow, like brave little soldier boy. Now, when Smash Bros. Brawl came out in the Wii, it's very clear here that Sakurai had a lot more time to create a bunch of unique characters. So a solid amount of these characters were really well designed. However, there's some stinkers. My first honorable mention is gonna be Snake. That's not Solid Snake, man. At the time, Sakurai wasn't allowed to give him a gun, so instead he became this heavy weapons specialist, which doesn't really fit with anything Snake does in his games, really. And then it just became like hilarious because later on, like years later, Joker has a gun. Okay, now guns are allowed. My next honorable mention is Wolf. He's another clone of Fox. We already had Falco, who I didn't even mention in the Melee part of this video, and now you got another clone of Fox. Like, come on, can we not do this, Sakurai? And my final honorable mention has to go to Sonic. I understand that making a moveset for Sonic the Hedgehog was always going to be difficult since the majority of his moves in games is him spinning in a ball. But making the majority of Sonic's moves him spinning in a ball, like his special attacks, smash attacks, and it's very confusing and makes playing against Sonic really frustrating. And I think if you're a Sonic fan, you're probably still happy that he's in this game, but you're a little disappointed that all of his moves are basically the same. Could have been a lot more references to the many games that he has. But I feel like you already knew this was coming. The worst designed character in Brawl is Meta Knight. Meta Knight is absolutely ridiculous. When it comes to Sakurai's game design and game balance, he usually is pretty good at understanding where to toe the line. Meta Knight isn't necessarily that strong, but he makes up for that by having essentially the ability to fly around freely throughout the entire stage. The only problem is, in a platform fighting game, having the ability to fly around non-stop with every single one of your abilities, and all of those are really fast as well, kind of breaks the game. And for the first time ever in Smash Bros history, we had a tier 0 character, a character that people were kind of wishing would have been banned in tournament play. To this day, I don't think there is a single character in any platform fighting game's history that is as broken as Brawl Meta Knight. I'm pairing Rivals of Aether 1 and 2 together because it's a true sequel to this game, and every single character that I'm going to be talking about exists in Rivals of Aether 2 at this point. And gameplay wise hasn't really changed too much since the first game. But if I'm being fully honest with you guys, they did a really good job at designing every single character in this game. So narrowing it down was actually pretty difficult, but not impossible. My first honorable mention is Raster. I just don't like that he's not wearing pants. All the other characters have some type of clothing on, or they're like Krag and Edelus and they're supposed to just be like in the wild. But Raster is like a captain of a ship, so like lore-wise, wear your pants, bro. Where's your pants? My next honorable mention is Olympia. Olympia is just one of those characters that is really frustrating to fight against because you get hit by one good combo starter and then you're dead. Your stock's just gone. And I'm not a fan of characters like that. Characters like Kazuya in Smash Ultimate or Luigi in Smash Ultimate, just characters with 0 to death combos. They're not that fun to play against, but the reason why she's not the worst is because, I mean, besides the fact that some of her combos can be annoying, she's pretty awesome. I actually think the worst designed character, it's hard for me to say it because I like him a lot, it's Zetterburn. It's just because we all know that he's a carbon copy of Wolf from Project M. Like, he's just as spacey. I love his lore, I love the fire elements to his kit, but he's just Wolf from Project M. Dan Farnese has acknowledged this. Everybody knows. And to me, that makes him the worst designed character because every other character after this, you can kind of pinpoint their origins, but it's not like a carbon copy. He's always kind of been a little bit of a copy. But we still love him, and we love all the Rivals of Aether characters, okay? Smash Bros. For Wii U and also the 3DS, don't forget about that, brought a ton of my favorite characters into this game. And I really do feel like Sakurai honed in on making sure that his characters felt balanced, felt fun to play, and really respected their game's origins. But there's always going to be honorable mentions. I'm always going to roast the bad clones. Dark Pit, you don't need to exist. You could have just been a skin. Everybody agrees. Go away. Then my next honorable mention is Little Mac. Don't get me wrong, I think Little Mac is actually a ton of fun to play as, but I do think Sakurai really missed the mark here when it came to his game design decisions with Little Mac. It's kind of like a reverse Meta Knight because the idea is a character with no vertical mobility, but in exchange has a ton of power. But it's a platform fighting game, so having no vertical mobility is unsurprisingly extremely detrimental to the game plan. There's definitely a middle ground that he could have come up with, but in Smash for Wii U, Little Mac was pretty bad and kind of just annoying to play against. He's just like a cheesy character, let's be honest. But just like Meta Knight in Brawl, the pick for the worst design character in Smash for Wii U and 3DS has got to be Bayonetta. And the worst part about Bayonetta is the first character on our list to be DLC. So people paid for this character to ruin their game. Like legitimately, pre-DLC Smash for Wii U is a pretty damn great game. But post-DLC, oh my god, these DLC characters took over. But no character was more broken, more frustrating, and more annoying than Bayonetta. She had way too much vertical mobility with easy combo strings, an annoyingly great counter, and just an unfun game plan where the moment you get hit, you're just gonna get comboed left, right, up to the sky, and then you're gone. That was the entire gameplay loop. It was not fun to play as, it was not fun to watch as a competitive spectator. What can I say? I really don't like tier 0 characters, especially in the modern era, Sakurai. You could just go back to your games and put a patch note out. But no, you just left us out here with Bayonetta being broken all the way until Smash Ultimate released. Name a more iconic duo than Nintendo and not releasing patch notes. Okay, just like last time, I've never played Brawlhalla, and I've read your comments. You guys all want me to make a Brawlhalla for noobs. When this arm's healed and my child is a little bit older, I will make a lot more content, okay? It's just not that easy right now. So I did a little bit of research to figure out what fans of Brawlhalla thought were the most annoying, most frustrating, just like worst designed characters in Brawlhalla. The first honorable mention is apparently anybody with scythes. I guess scythes in this game are super annoying. Like, I know there's a bunch of different weapons, but yeah, I guess scythes, just everybody hates scythes. Another honorable mention is Vrax. Brawlhalla fans, let me know if that feels accurate, but I saw pretty consistently that most people apparently hate Loki. Not Marvel Rivals Loki, but Loki from Brawlhalla. And I guess it's because he also has a scythe, but like a snake in a scythe, which is double annoying. Like I said, I'm not a Brawlhalla guy, but Brawlhalla fans, let me know if this feels accurate at all, or just let me know in the comments who you think is the worst designed character in Brawlhalla. Genuinely curious because, like I said, no idea. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale had some of my favorite characters really duke it out, and I really do hope eventually they get a sequel. My first honorable mention is Big Daddy, because he's not a Sony character. Ugh! The next honorable mention is Dante from Devil May Cry, because they decided to use this Dante. Nobody likes this Dante. Why would they do that? The iconic Dante with the beautiful long hair was right there, and they chose young, looking like Anakin Skywalker from the second movie, Bad Dante. But no, the worst designed character in PlayStation All-Stars was always gonna go to Kratos. They just really made Kratos the most annoying character. Eventually, they did tone him down with the patch notes and stuff, but it doesn't change the fact that as a kid, when I was playing this game and really enjoying it, playing as Spike from Monkey Ball, I just felt like my character couldn't do anything because you just had the most annoying, button mashy, overpowered, overtuned character of all time, being Kratos. Which, okay, if you played God of War, I guess that's how he is in the game, but this isn't God of War. This is supposed to be a balanced platform fighting game. Why do you have a character that can attack me from like 20 feet away, and all of his attacks do so much damage? All my orbs just keep coming out, and it felt like you were in never-ending hit stun. Everything about Kratos in PlayStation All-Stars was just beyond frustrating. So seriously, if they do make a PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale 2, which I've made a video about, you can check it out, please make Kratos a lot less overtuned and maybe more like Ragnarok's Kratos, because he's like so much cooler in that game anyway. And finally, we have Smash Ultimate. Smash Ultimate is genuinely one of the greatest platform fighting games made of all time. And pre-DLC, it might have been a perfect game. And then the DLC came out. It's just always DLC, Sakurai. Why do you make them so overpowered? Our first honorable mention is Pyra and Mythra. Besides the fact that they can switch between their two roles, they're a pretty boring and generic sword fighter. There's not much in their kit that is very unique that they deserve to be in this game, the way that a lot of these other characters brought a lot more to the table. I've always been a little bit disappointed in Pyra and Mythra. Our next honorable mention is Minecraft Steve. Honestly, Steve represents Minecraft perfectly. The thing that makes him very game-breaking is the fact that because he plays like Minecraft, all of his moves come out frame 1 or frame 2 like super duper fast, which kind of mimics the animations of Minecraft. But just having good frame data isn't enough for him to be the worst character, but having the ability to make platforms in a platform fighting game might be a little too much. We are definitely in an era of current Smash Ultimate where Minecraft Steve is undoubtedly the best character in Smash Ultimate, with some of the best players in the world, including probably the best player currently, maining Minecraft Steve. It's just not that fun to deal with, but it's nowhere near as bad as Meta Knight from Brawl and Bayonetta from Smash from Wii U. I actually think that the worst designed character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has got to be Min Min. Let's just talk about the fact that ARMS didn't sell well, so we didn't need an ARMS rep. Nobody was asking for this. Nobody would have cared. And she came as DLC, of course. But what makes Min Min very annoying is the fact that her range is outrageous and can single-handedly make a ton of different characters in the entire roster completely obsolete. I just don't think there should be a character with that much range being this good. And while North America has been busy arguing if they should ban Steve from tournament play, Japan has been busy complaining about the fact that Min Min is ruining their game. And they've been kind of on the mark the whole time, because now with professional players like Dora Migi having impressive tournament runs, I have a hot take, and I do think that Min Min at its highest level is actually worse than Steve at the highest level. It's really not that fun. Okay, so that is the worst designed character in every single platform fighting game. Let me know in the comments down below which character you think is actually the worst designed character in your favorite platform fighting game. I'm genuinely curious to see what people think because people's interpretation of what makes a character bad may be a lot different than mine, which is why it's called an opinion. But with that, I'm gonna go back to raising my child with one arm. I'll catch you later.